There was a time when protest songs full of strong messages were popular. Is there still a place today for the mix of pop and politics?
Russian punk band Pussy Riot are wild and colorful. This year, some of their members were arrested for hooliganism and face up to 7 years in jail. In February, the women entered Moscow's Cathedral of Christ the Savior and sang a song asking the Virgin Mary to rid them of Vladimir Putin. Their protest certainly had a sound. Not just Russia, but countries around the world. Egypt, Britain, the US, and Germany have seen mass protests during the last 18 months. People have demonstrated against the political order, the financial system, and social injustice. They've yelled, whistled, and drummed. But is there a soundtrack to this protest movement? We asked British music critic Dorian Lynskey, author of a book called 33 Revolutions Per Minute. Published in 2011, it's a history of protest songs.
I think the important thing to remember is that protesters don't need anthems. They might need music to cheer themselves up. They might need music while they're protesting, while they're occupying. And if songs come through, then it's great that they're embraced.
Protest and music sometimes go together, but demonstrators don't need to create their own sound. Take the Occupy movement in New York. A few drummers were there and had jam sessions. And Joan Baez, a legendary singer of protest songs, even paid a visit to the site. But not even she could resurrect the protest song. The days when Baez and Bob Dylan made music forever linked with protests against the Vietnam War are long gone. Reggae musician Bob Marley, one of the leaders of the Rastafari movement, died 3 decades ago. The hip-hoppers from Public Enemy, who fought for the rights of African Americans, had their biggest hits in the late 1980s. And Green Day's anthem American Idiot fueled anger at then U.S. President George W. Bush. These songs worked because they targeted a specific enemy.
To try and wrestle the Arab Spring, the economic crisis, Occupy, into songs which don't simplify and let down or condescend to their subject is very, very difficult. The battle lines are not drawn in the same way that they were if you wanted to write a song against apartheid, against nuclear war. These were very clear topics.
Protest songs only work when the enemy is clearly defined. That's usually the case with totalitarian regimes. Take the protests that took place at Tahrir Square in Cairo last year. Egyptian songwriter Rami Essam sang Irhal there, which means get out in Arabic. Unfortunately, few people in the West understood his message.
So when you're looking at the songs of the Arab Spring, they want to be for the people on the street, in the protests. They want to be for the people, the friends and neighbours of the musicians. And I think any attempt for them to broaden that out, to make it a kind of global resistance anthem, would let it down, would dilute it.
So a protest song can't and even shouldn't go global. In London, we met with Hichkas, Iran's best-known rapper. He introduced Farsi to hip-hop, itself a form of protest in a country where most Western-style music is banned. Two years ago, Hichkas left Tehran, where he'd never been allowed to perform. But he hopes to return one day, so he chooses his lyrics carefully.
When you're a rapper in whatever country in the world, and you want to have a bit of influence on society or young people, then you have to think about your subject, what you want to say before you start rapping. You have to chew on the words a bit before you can start spitting them out.
Give a big, big, big round of applause for one of Iran's biggest artists, one of my best friends, and one of the best, Hichkas!
In London, Hichkas is welcomed with open arms. For years, he's worked with a rapper called Reveal. Together, they've organized concerts in Malaysia, Sweden, and Turkey. To celebrate the Persian New Year, they're performing songs that say, "Look at the people of Iran without all your prejudices. No protest songs are on offer here." Reveal has Iranian roots, but grew up in London. Last summer, when youths fought running battles with the police on the streets of the capital, Reveal released a song called "I Predict a Riot."
I felt proud to be part of the hip-hop community from the UK because the majority of the songs that came out were telling the kids that you're just doing what the police want you to do and you're just playing into their hands, so try to calm down and try to fall back. So I thought it was actually a positive response. It wasn't trying to incite anything bad.
It seems performers can still influence events through their music. But sometimes a song written long after an event can pack a greater punch than one penned during the protests, like "Ill Manners" by Plan B.
I kill time there, used to be a member. What will I do now until September? Schools out, rules out.
The hip-hopper and soul singer mixed his music with powerful images from the London riots. British newspaper The Guardian called "Ill Manners" the first great mainstream protest song in years.
And if we see any rich kids on the way, we'll make them wish they stayed inside. There's a charge for congestion, everybody's got to pay. Do what Boris does, rob them blind.
What I tend to like about protest songs is their ability to contain contradictions and to deal with ambiguity and to reflect that in the form as well as the lyrics. And so you listen to "Ill Manners" and it's very complicated. It's not just addressing certain liberal talking points. It doesn't have one particular diagnosis for what happened with the riots, what is happening with, British economy, what is happening in the British class system. These things come very, very thick and fast.
When Lynskey finished writing his book in 2010, he never imagined the wave of protests that would spread around the globe in the following year. He thought he'd written a eulogy for the protest song, as politics and pop music no longer seemed compatible.
It's harder to find those #1 singles, those big crossover albums where politics is considered something that people would generally be interested in. It's much more on the fringes, but that's not entirely the case. There are exceptions like Plan B's new single, but generally there's been a fading out of protest music from the mainstream, but it still exists on the underground, on the fringes, in specific genres.
Few protest songs now have mainstream appeal. But perhaps that's logical. What revolutionaries want to be associated with a chart topper that everyone knows, even if their protest song has hit potential?
Meine Stimme auch ein offenes
Now on US airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories. World news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.